Hello and welcome to Move the Line Prop Drop Show presented by Thrive Fantasy. I am Ryan Noonan. We'll be here in this space every week talking about the best way, the most profitable way to bet on NFL football, and that is player props. Live 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday, giving you our favorite props of the week and taking your questions. So if you are hanging out with us on YouTube, subscribe first so you don't miss a show, and then jump in the chat. Let us know what you're considering for week one, what looks you have, anything you're on the fence about, or if you want to heckle us with our picks. Happy to handle that at the end of the show. Joining me here, as always, from Vegas, and on very, very little sleep, but hopefully a little bit more energy than he had at the top of last show. Connor Allen, how we doing?
Never been better. Honestly, Vegas is the best. It's a lot of fun, but I'm going to have to go a little bit of a hot take here. And I think I mentioned on the other episode, betting sports in Vegas sucks. It is the worst thing ever. After you have mobile apps, it is awful because I have to go to different sports books and register for the app, or I have to go to the kiosk and scroll through all their stuff. Awful. So I'm very much out on Vegas as being a good sports betting place now after being spoiled with 6 apps in Illinois.
What kept you up all night then if you were out betting on God knows what?
Well, I was getting demolished on Twitter for liking an Allen Robinson over, and I was just getting dragged for 24 hours straight. So I was just crying by myself, in a corner, playing some craps, usual Vegas stuff.
Oh, man. Also joining us every week in this space, the man behind the Mayo Media Network, the Pat Mayo Experience, of course, none other than the man himself. It is Pat Mayo. Pat, how we doing today?
Oh, I'm doing much better. I recommended Cam Akers in your DraftKings captain spot because I thought, good contrarian play. Maybe the reports are off. No, it's just a way to lose money.
Yeah, not great, but good, entertaining football. Excited that we finally have some actual games to watch and talk about. Although we're still a little bit in this spot in speculating on week one stuff because we don't have any data game points yet. But again, Pat, remind the viewers what they need to do to the like button.
They need to smash it and sub to the channel and download the podcast. Do it all. Help support the show.
Appreciate it. And then again, 2 episodes of Move the Line each week, both available on YouTube and in podcast form. In addition to the prop drop here, our game previews with Connor, John Daigle, and myself is live on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, leading you into Thursday night football. Again, go check out last night's show. We have 9 bets in there for you for week one. Before we get started, I want to tell our listeners more about our friends at Thrive Fantasy and really how great and a unique opportunity there is to make money over there, specifically this week. It is wide open. If you're not familiar with Thrive, it is a daily fantasy sports platform and esports platform for player props. Very simple game. They have 20 available props for you to build a lineup. You choose your favorite 10. Each prop's assigned a fantasy value, both to the over and the under, based on how likely it is to hit the most props, accumulate the most points, and you can win a share of the prize pool. They have $350,000 in guaranteed prize money for week one. Their featured contest. I mean, you got to get over here. It's $25 to enter. It's $250,000 guaranteed, and it's $50K to first. It is 12% filled as of a half an hour ago. Okay. It's paying out like the top 25% or so. It's not even close to being filled. Get over there. Use the promo code PropDrop when you sign up today. You're going to receive a 100% instant first deposit match up to $250. So you sign up, use PropDrop. You'll have $500 instantly. Start firing at this bad boy. It is going to overlay. If we can get it even close to 50 or 60%, I don't know what they were thinking here. They went a little aggressive with week one. We want to help our friends get this closer to filled. And again, help you better your chances of winning a ton of money. So download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or go on the website, thrivefantasy.com. 10% yesterday. It's up to 12.5. I'd be surprised if we get there. We're like 48 hours out, but on a week one, these are live lines. Prop bets available for you to bet on right now. We're not giving out any stale lines. Our goal is to do our best to make sure that you can get the same line and price or as close as possible as what we did. Connor, if you are ready, you can get us started.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So my first one, you guys are going to think that I'm really fun. I'm going to have a bunch of unders today. So we got Mike Gesicki under 32.5 receiving yards. At this point, I don't really think that he, matches a lot of what they want to do on offense. There's trade rumors in the offseason. And if you're looking at what we think that offense is going to be, it's probably going to be run heavy. And they want a tight end to block, and he doesn't block. And so we saw in the preseason, he's playing with/behind Durham, Smith. And, I just don't think he's going to be used at all right now. So you're looking at 30-some receiving yards. Our projections have him right around there. But the reality is I think that his floor is just way, way lower. Like I think that he could be getting like 1 to 2 targets per game versus, like getting 33 reception or 33 receiving yards. He would have to be super efficient on that. So, I'm pretty comfortably taking that under. And I think that he might be a guy that like we don't even get props for after a couple of weeks just because he's like not even seeing the ball.
Yeah, we talked about him last week on the show, and we're shorting him on the season-long standpoint. Question from Dane here in the chat. Thoughts on a juiced under 3.5 receptions? Do you like that as well?
Yeah, I looked at that pretty hard. I just don't think that it matters either way. I think that you can bet both of them, to be honest. But if you're laying less juice on the yards, I'd probably prefer that.
Yeah.
In that situation, because I have one that's sort of correlated in the same way, like that is the prime opportunity for a same game parlay. Like if you're going to correlate stats together under on that, just find them on Gesicki and go that way and get paid like plus 270 on the money.
Oh yeah. No, that's sharp too, for sure.
Yeah, good call. Again, you can do the same game parlays in a intelligent way that you're still setting yourself up, but they don't have to just be donkey plays where you're chasing the dragon on these crazy bets. If you're smart and correlating, like Pat said, there's definitely advantageous ways to get out there. Pat, first bet for you, bud.
That's what I'm doing. I'm correlating a parlay here, and I couldn't find it on DraftKings Sportsbook of the rushing attempts. Elijah Mitchell was right around. He's at 15.5 at plus 105 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't love that one. I do think that he goes over. My numbers suggest something differently on that, unfortunately. So I'm not going to go against my numbers, but I do think that he has a very good game. The Bears' pass defense, at least their pass rush, much better than the run defense. And as a 7-point favorite, even with a rushing quarterback, which should allow for more yardage for Elijah Mitchell to be more efficient with those running lanes, I have Elijah Mitchell anytime touchdown parlayed with Elijah Mitchell over 70 rushing yards. It pays 3-1. I like both of those independently. You can have the anytime touchdown at plus 125 for Elijah Mitchell in this game. You could even throw some more if you think there's going to be an onslaught from the Niners rushing attack. No Kittle. That hurts their blocking. No center. That hurts their blocking. But it does seem like Debo is still, I don't want to say debilitated with a hamstring issue. It's been lingering now. I just don't think that we see Debo get his 8 carries. And I don't think that they're going anywhere else. You're going to have Lance carrying the ball. Like Lance over under right now, 8.5 rushing attempts in this game. That's even money. I like the over of that. But just Mitchell over the 70 yards. That's 3-1. If you want to put on Trey Lance over his rushing yardage total, I like that as well. That gets it up to 6-1. You can even do something sneaky too. If Lance is going to be rushing this much, they're not all going to be designed runs. A lot of them are going to be take off after, if the first read isn't there, he's just going to start running. And the Bears had the best adjusted pass sack rate in the league last season. So you could throw 3+ sacks from the Bears onto that. All of a sudden, we're up to 14-1. You can see, Noonan, how I lose my money every single week because I get too greedy with this stuff. But I feel like all those things can work in unison with one another, and then you get the multiple payouts from it.
Yeah, they're essentially like we talk about showdown lineups. If you're playing DFS, where you're your showdown lineup has to tell a story, right? But theoretically, your same game parlay should be doing the same. You want to think about a game environment and how things are going to play out, and kind of build from there. And we saw last year, right? When Elijah Mitchell is healthy and in the lineup, they love that dude, and they fed him and fed him and fed him. The only time we really started to see Debo start to mix in, and even some of the other running backs, was when he was dealing with some injury issues. So game 1. He's ready to go. We're very much down on the Bears, Connor. So I have no problem. And also looking at some probably bad weather, possibly some rain, which again, not massive winds that are an issue here. But I think we see even more of a ground attack here from San Francisco. I like that.
Yeah, and when you look at it, he only ended up with the 11 attempts against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And I feel like that's affecting his numbers right now. Yeah. He averaged less than 2 yards per carry. It was tough to run on the Rams last season. But in all of the other games where he was healthy before that, even in the playoffs, 17 carries, 27, 21, 21, 22, 27, 27. 8 the week before against Arizona. That was the week he got hurt. So he's only gone under 17 once in his past, 8 games. And this is a situation where they're 7-point favorites. So yeah, I like all of the overs on Mitchell this week.
Yeah, there's some sharp people in the space who took unders on Mitchell, and I just don't get it at all, because like for all the reasons you mentioned, and beyond that, like when he did start, he was getting 87% plus of the carries of every single week. Like who is going to steal carries from him? I just don't understand what other guy that they really believe in at this point. Maybe Tyrion Davis-Price eventually, but all reports are that Jeff Wilson's the number 2 running back, who I don't think that they're really going to give too much work to. I mean, Mitchell just proved that he's like, I think more talented than the rest of the roster at this point. So barring, an injury, which is possible, but in this week, I just don't think it matters. I think the overs there are a great look.
Yeah. If they're looking at 32, 35 carries probably for the Niners here in this game, I think we're comfortably feeling like Mitchell's getting at least half of those. And, even if we're seeing a pretty hefty game from Trey Lance on the ground too, which I agree with Pat, like even at 8.5, if you're getting even money on that, I like that look. He, with that game with the Cardinals, I think last year, his first start, we were all salivating. He went over his rushing number, like 7.5 carries, like the first, early couple minutes of the second quarter. So no problem with that one whatsoever. First play for me, Justin Jefferson. I booked this at 79.5 on DraftKings. It's still really right there, 81.5, minus 105 on DK too. So love that number. I just thought we would see Justin Jefferson in the 90s, 90 plus all season. And I think we've been all over it. And I think the drumbeat with the pro Viking stuff has been really loud all off season. It's really centered around Kevin O'Connell, just kind of moving this offense into the 21st century, getting away from those really boring under center base formation, run heavy snaps. And Jefferson is obviously dynamic after the catch. If they're going to move him around and do some different things, I think it's going to be really exciting. They were 23rd in pass rate last year, and he averaged 95 yards per game last year. Led the league in deep targets and air yards. So we know that the big plays are there. Great games last year against Green Bay. I think it's a tough matchup. But again, tough matchup last year. He went for 169 the last time they met last year in Minnesota too. So I don't think we need to overthink this one very much. Our projections is in the low 103 range. So anywhere up until 90, comfortable going over on Justin Jefferson.
No Jair Alexander in that game, by the way. He will be playing this time.
Correct. Massive. One of the best corners in the league for sure. So at the end of the day, we would have probably said that if we had any sort of reluctancy to chase Steph Diggs or Gabe Davis last night with Jalen Ramsey. And I think good offense can beat really good defense. So no problem with Jair, who I love. I think the Packers defense is going to be awesome, but I think Justin Jefferson is on his way to a special season.
Agree.
Yeah, I think the number's probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can get behind our projection of 103, but I think, maybe 5 to 10 yards short. I think like over under 90 makes a little more sense. So, 79 seems a little bit short.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm trying to see. I'm trying to figure out what do I have Jefferson at my projections. Probably not as high because I use a lot of I kind of downgrade everything because unders just hit more than
for sure
anything else. Where are we at here with Justin Jefferson? No, I can't even find him. Oh, there he is. I have him at 84 yards is his medium projection, just as a contrast to that.
Yeah, so that's probably on that was probably being not a bettable edge per se. I think this week we're looking at our prop tool, we're leaning over on a lot of stuff, which is problematic too, right? So I think we're trying to proceed with caution, not following the tool blindly, and trying to understand where can we find some edges here when we have some things that maybe we lean over that aren't a bettable edge. Maybe we need to be looking the other way for sure. But that's not represented in my card for this show. But we'll figure it out as we get there. Connor, bet number 2.
My second one today, Marquez Valdes-Scantling under 3.5 receptions. The Chiefs wide receiver situation is super murky. I mean, MVS has never really been a volume-based guy. I really expect him and Hardman to kind of run a lot of clear-out routes with Juju and Kelsey soaking up a lot of targets underneath. And this one could come back to bite me if, MVS's role is a little bit different than what I expect. But I think there's enough wiggle room here where at 3.5 receptions that we should be okay, barring him running, basically Juju's routes, essentially. That's what I would think would be a kind of disaster for this prop. But other than that, we projected for 2.4 receptions. So our projections are really low on him. I know some others in the space are as well. So I think that at 3.5 receptions, minus 110, you're able to find that at MGM. It's a pretty solid look there on the under.
Yeah, Pat, how do you have that shaken out? It's obviously, even Mahomes himself has said it's going to be something that fantasy owners are going to have a problem with all season. It's going to be, matchup based. And again, it feels like they just went out and it's more than just a 1-for-1 Tyreek replacement. They just essentially tried to, quantity over quality here. How do you think this shakes out?
I think that the move would be just if they're going to offer 3.5 every single week. Now, if it goes down, that means you're winning your unders every single week. So that's good news. But it's just one of those ones that you would want to blindly play. There's going to be weeks where it's going to be like, 6 for 200 for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Okay. And then it'll just be zeros for 5 weeks in a row. So I'm on board with the under every week on that, unless they really do show us that all of a sudden it's like, oh no, he's going to get 7-8 targets a game. And even then, like, most of his targets are so deep down the field that they're not the highest catchable rate balls in the world. I really like that game. And unfortunately, all the props have been stricken off the board of that in the Packers game for the receiving props, because we just don't know about Zach Ertz. We don't know about Rondell Moore at this point, but like AJ Green over everything seems like a smash, because even if Rondell Moore plays, it's not like AJ Green's not going to play 90 to 100% of the snaps. He's going to be out there. Like, his anytime touchdown is 3-1. Like, it just seems like people forgot how much he was used in this offense last year.
Yeah, we wanted to call him Dusty AJ Green and remember that, that he's just not the separator that he was. But it doesn't matter. Like you said, if he's on the field for 95, 98% of the snaps, like, gosh, I've seen like Prize Pick, some other places out there that have numbers on him. He's in like low 40s. So I would love to see something hung out there in the books soon. Again, we know what Arizona wants to do defensively. They're going to blitz a ton. They are one of the blitz heaviest teams in the league. Their best pass rusher, Chandler Jones, is now in Las Vegas. They probably are going to have a dinged up JJ Watt, if they even have JJ Watt at all. They're going to have to drum up some pressure here. And blitzing Pat Mahomes is something that I wouldn't want to spend a ton of time doing, but they're going to have to do it. And the secondary is terrible. The majority of their guys, excuse me, that are going to play this week are among the bottom third in PFF's grades. It's a dumpster fire of a secondary. So I like some of these things here, but again, because we don't know how it's going to shake out, I think Connor's on the right side, kind of leaning under until we get a feel for that. So Pat, bet number 2.
I'm sticking that same game, and it's along the same sort of lines. Like, yeah, we expect the Chiefs to jump out in this game. If not, then, this one's in a lot of trouble, but it tends to go under. James Conner, under 13.5 rushing attempts. They like to use him in the passing game for reasons that I'm not quite sure of. They like to use him on the ground in goal line situations because he was taking away those touchdowns from Kyler Murray. But you have the Kyler effect. I think they'll mix in a little bit of Benjamin at certain points to be a pass catcher, and just taking Connor off the field is great here. So as long as this game isn't tied at half and Arizona remains in these close spots, then you're going to see Connor rush the ball. But his yards per carry are just absolutely atrocious. And that's not what they want to do in this offense, is run him into the ground. So I really like that. It's currently -1. What was it? Yeah, -110. James Conner under 13.5 carries, and I'm in on it.
We're at 13.7, Connor. So it feels like one of those examples that I talked about earlier. Like, if median projection is that close, probably should be leaning under all times, especially in week 1 when we have a little bit more variance than normal.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I think, a chance that they get like Benjamin involved a little bit too on the ground, and like just use Connor in that pass game role. Like Pat said there, that they like to use him in. So if that kind of shakes out too, you're siphoning away a couple carries from him in those situations. I think that he could easily hit the under here and be closer to like 10 carries rather than 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, I haven't projected at 11.7, so this is why this one stuck out to me in such a big way.
Yeah, that makes sense. No problem with that one. I think the folks are not going to like my next one because no one likes Zeke Elliott, but I'm going to take an over on Zeke Elliott carries at 12.5. Posted this for subscribers at +104 on Caesars a couple of days ago. The number hasn't moved, but we got a little bit more juice on it, but it's still available on DraftKings at -110. He topped this number in 6 of the first 7 games last year before the week 9 knee injury. And I know we don't really agree with the establish the run thought here, but they are going to. And I think the talks of it are something that we need to believe. And because there are so many questions at the pass catching positions here, I think they're going to lean on the running backs. Very similar to Green Bay. I think they really need to get their best 11 on the field, and that involves both running backs. And it sounds like we saw a piece over on The Athletic this week about a sizable increase coming with 12 personnel, 2 running backs, where it allows them to run even more. And I think Zeke is going to be in the spot where, especially now, week 1, he's coming in as healthy as he's probably going to be all season. We saw all the cut-ups on Instagram and all those things this season where Zeke is healthy. It's not going to be more healthy than week 1. I think they try to lean on him. This Tampa Bay defense is not the elite run-stopping unit that it was last season when they came out and just threw to avoid running against them. They've had some massive losses on the defensive front that are going to make them a little bit worse this season. So I'm not scared necessarily about the matchup here. I think their shot to really hang in this game is to kind of control the game and run a little bit more. So we have a tiny bit higher, 13.6 carries. I've seen some other sources in the 14 to 15 range. Would love to see what Pat has, but over 12.5 carries for Zeke.
I got him at 11.7. So I see this game a little bit differently than you do, but I think the logic completely tracks out with that. I see, like, without running a projection system, the reason that I keep bringing this up is because ever since I started using my projections, once I just, theoretically went in, punched in numbers of like, oh, this is the split, here's how I think it's going to work. You always just think overs are going to hit all the time, and that you inflate that in your head. Now, like, logically, I can see him getting like 19 carries in this game. Why not, right?
Yeah. Hey, if they're going to have a shot, Connor, they're probably going to have to lean on Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, well, wait, hold on. No, not gonna.
Who did they throw it to? Noah Brown?
They cannot lean on Zeke to win this game. I mean, that is, okay, Jerry. I mean, that's. I did tail this with you. I'll be transparent. I did tail this with you, but I think that our back and forth prior to us playing it officially was, do they know, or do they is that what they think, that the Tampa Bay run defense is not as good, so they're not going to pass the ball as much? I think that's also a concern. And, they were sharp enough to go super pass heavy last year, but I don't know. I think that was kind of my one concern, and obviously betting on a guy like Zeke, I don't know. I'm not really super into it, but I did tail. I do like the play. I do lean over. I just think that those are some of my initial concerns.
Yeah, see, like I said, the Boomers would hate the Zeke play. Again, we got it at plus money. It's still minus 110 on DraftKings. I think it's still in play, but I understand why someone would be reluctant to chase it. Connor, bet number 3.
And my third one, Josh Jacobs under 2.5 receptions. And this one comes in a little bit lower than our projections here. We have projected for 1.7. They brought in Amir Abdullah to be their, quote, James White pass catching guy. And they also are talking about mixing in Zamir White kind of in early down. So I think that Jacobs, main out to go over on this was to have some screens, maybe some be involved in the passing game on early downs. Whereas now I think we're going to see Zamir White mix in on early downs, plus Amir Abdullah taking some passing downs. I think that the under 2.5 receptions here, it's there's a little bit of juice, minus 140 at MGM. We projected for 1.7 receptions. And this is another situation which, again, we could be totally wrong. Jacobs could see 80% of the work. Amir Abdullah could never play. Could be a Gio Bernard situation that we saw in Tampa last year, where we thought he would take passing work. But I think that based on everything we've been hearing, and as well as him, getting some good run in the preseason, kind of points to, him at least sharing the workload here in the backfield.
Yeah, it's a situation I want nothing to do with, so I have no problem fading unders here on the pass catching core. What do you think, Pat?
I just don't know enough about the situation. I have a very bad grasp about how the Las Vegas offense is going to work. So they're just pure passes for me. I'm not being oh, well, I mean, if Josh Jacobs had 6 catches, I'd be like, oh, turns out they didn't use scrub Amir Abdullah as their pass catching back. They just use the guy who's always on the field for them.
It's Josh McDaniels, right? So we historically, running the Patriots in the running back position has been really hard to get a grasp on. So yeah, I mean, I think that
we didn't see that. We didn't see that in Denver.
It's true. But we have, I think, more of kind of a ambiguous talent level. I don't think we have anyone that's kind of standing out. So maybe that's part of it too. So we'll see. I think I kind of agree with Pat. I would lean under on Jacobs passing every week, but we have no idea how they're going to use this backfield moving forward. And am I super worried about the Amir Abdullahs of the world? We probably shouldn't be, but we'll wait and see what they decide they want to do with it. Yeah. All right. Pat, number 3 for you, bud.
Yeah, it's a minus 130, but I really like this one. It is the best projected discrepancy between a number that's listed and what I have my numbers telling me. And now this blows up when the Patriots jump out to a 10-0 lead on Miami. But I think that Miami, I don't want to say handles the Patriots. I just think that they're going to be able to score points on the Patriots, and that front seven is going to get the ball out very quickly. So Mac Jones over 30.5 passing attempts. That seems like a really low number for a team that's a 3.5 point underdog coming into a game. You know that the Patriots are going to try to run the ball. Maybe they'll be successful. But with the big playability of Miami, if they can score a long touchdown early, a quick, fast touchdown. And Miami was the third fastest first half team last season in seconds per play. So they're going to be pushing the pace. That's not how the Patriots like to play whatsoever, but they might get forced into that situation. See a lot of Mac Jones, 3-step dropbacks, boom, 4-yard pass, 4-yard pass, tight end, Jacoby Myers. So over 30.5 passing attempts, one of my best plays of the week.
Connor, we both like Miami at 2.5. We dragged our feet on it, and then it got away from us for sure. And now it's on the other side at 3.5. But we're a tad over at 33.5 attempts for Mac. But I think Pat does a good job painting that picture.
Yeah, I feel pretty cowardly for not grabbing the 2.5 when we both felt pretty good about it. But that's a good point. I hadn't seen that prop, and I really like that. That's a good look there. I guess the only concern is that you're right, like you said, if New England gets out to a lead, but I don't know. I don't really see that happening here. So I think that they're going to be forced into a kind of a neutral or a negative game script, forced to kind of open the ball up, especially in the second half too. You might be able to get like a good live bet number, on an over pass attempts, because I do anticipate them probably coming out at least, neutral or run heavy. But until Miami gets a lead, they might not have to open it up. So you might be able to even get a better number. But I think there's still a good enough edge here that it's worth betting like pregame.
Yeah, good luck. Next for me, A.J. Dillon, over 49.5 rushing yards. This is available minus 110. 114 out there. I took it at 46.5 a couple days ago. I'm okay with anywhere under 50, so I'm going to still give it out here. Again, Aaron Rodgers, similar to the Dow situation, and talked extensively about having their best 11 on the field, which involves both backs. I think we see a massive workload for Aaron Jones in the passing game. And we saw an increase in snap rate down the stretch last season for A.J. Dillon, really limited early in the year, but topped this mark in 60% of the games last year from week 4 to week 18, including both matchups against the Vikings. I think Minnesota's made some defensive additions this offseason, mostly in the secondary and at edge, not anything that's necessarily making me hesitate to attack them on the ground. Here's a problem for them last year. They allowed the 4th highest EPA per rush on the season. And again, with all the questions that they have as well, Alan Lazard didn't practice again today, looks fairly doubtful. I think they're going to lean on these backs, and our projections have him a tad over 51. Again, not a huge edge, but I think we're a little light here. So happy to pound A.J. Dillon, who I think is going to get a lot of work in both the passing game and on the ground. So thoughts on A.J. Dillon?
Would you rather just take the 66.5 rushing receiving?
That's a little, so yeah, 66.5 I don't hate, because I think you're seeing his receiving yards right around there, like 21, 22. Is that correct?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, I like both. I have no problem with that at all, because I do think he's a better pass catcher than folks think he is. I think I had like 35 catches last year, and I think they've talked a lot about that too. They were surprised by how good he is, how short-handed he is, and they really want to use him this year. So yeah, I think he has a pretty good workload. So I have no problem. If you're getting better juice on that than say the minus 114 or something like that, I have no problem chasing the cumulative yards.
Yeah, that is, what is it? It's minus 115 right now at DraftKings.
Okay. Yeah. What are your thoughts there, Connor?
Yeah, it's interesting because you played it that way. Again, I totally agree with your logic, but for the same reasons I played the Aaron Rodgers under 23.5 completions, kind of the same logic. I just don't think that they're going to be able to, Dillon has to be a focal point of their offense at this point. I just don't see them really be able to, move the ball really to much other receivers there. I don't know. I'm pretty much out on Sammy and Dobbs, or Dobbs, one of the two. And, with Lazard out especially too, and Randall Cobb playing, just total dust balls in the field. So, I think Dillon over is a great look. Also, I saw a 2.5 reception line pop at plus money. Thought that was interesting for Dillon too, especially if we think that Minnesota can kind of elevate the game state there and kind of like bring Green Bay into like a pass heavier affair. But we'll see.
Yeah. I don't hate that. I think we're a little more under on the Rodgers attempts too, or completions 22 and change. So yeah, not a bad look there. All right. What's your last one?
All right. Last one for me. a guy that, most people haven't really kept up with too much. Josh Reynolds, I took under 2.5 receptions. Reynolds now on the Lions. He's like fifth maybe in the pecking order for targets behind Amon-Ra, Hawkinson, DJ Chark, and DeAndre Swift probably. And I just don't really see him even getting he might not even get 3 targets. So, at 2.5 receptions here, I think is a great look on the under for a guy like that.
I don't know about that one. I mean, I think
I
think you might be putting a lot of stock into what Chark is up to. Maybe Amon-Ra is going to take away a lot of those routes from Reynolds, but as soon as he stepped in, 3 was his floor in terms of targets per week. It's going to be tough to get over that number, but Goff likes him. It's weird. He just runs very simple routes. Goff's not very good. Maybe if Hawkinson is asked to block, you're going to see a lot of those Hawkinson targets, I think at least, end up going filtered to Josh Reynolds because the defense has to account for Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're not accounting for Josh Reynolds, and he'll probably play 90% of the snaps.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that secondary plays too. They were very vanilla last year. A lot of stuff underneath. They've obviously upgraded the secondary with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and then with James Bradbury coming over, so they're definitely a better unit. But under 2.5 because there are a lot of mouths to feed is probably a good lean. But it is one of those scenarios. To Pat's point, is there are different mouths to feed in that offense, and there was something there down the stretch. They seem to use him more often than not, which is pretty surprising. It's to see where he is in the pecking order as we get into the regular season. So don't hate the look, and that's BetMGM. You said.
Yeah, BetMGM. It's another look, and a lot of these are kind of I'm betting unders on ambiguous situations and things that there's just a lot of volatility with, I guess. So I think that's just been my kind of general lean early on in the season here. That sometimes you're able to get value, and I think that this could be a spot.
Forcing the unders because you hate fun, but I'm making up for it. Pounding the overs for us. Pat, last one.
Well, I'm actually going to end on an under, but I do have some overs that I do like. I'll throw those out here. They're not the strongest plays, but my numbers love Mitch Trubisky over passing attempts of 33.5. That's plus 105 right now. Just logically, that makes a lot of sense, I think, especially he has bad accuracy. So every time he doesn't complete a pass, it stops the clock, which really does help when you're trying to catch up from behind and continue passing down the field. Alvin Kamara over 14.5 carries. That's minus 125 at DraftKings. Josh Palmer over 28.5 receiving yards against the Raiders. I like that. But the one I'm really kind of locked onto right now, and I feel like I'm getting set up because there's less juice on this than the over. That logically makes no sense to me. My numbers agree with me. Jacoby Brissett under 29.5 passing attempts. Pretty sure Cleveland's going to try to run the ball 8,000 times in this game.
It's supposed to rain too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That was in the forecast. That's a number that is a little high. We're too high on Jacoby Brissett's attempts. We have him just a tick over 32, but I agree.
Why is that at 32? That doesn't make any sense.
I would think that they would try to hide him, or at least again run behind a great offensive line and get this game over as quickly as possible. So, and I think it's kind of a toss-up game. I'm kind of pro Panthers here, but I don't think either team gets away from the other one where Jacoby's going to be forced into this super pass happy fourth quarter or anything like that. So yeah, I think you're seeing under 30 makes a lot of sense.
You're looking at a game that's basically a pick'em at this point, but it's going to be very close. So if that actually translates, now if Carolina gets up at 17, it's like the Mac Jones thing. Well, Brissett's going to have to throw. That's just the case. But in a sloppy game, like you said, could have some elements. But even if it was perfect conditions, the Bears are going to want to run down their throats. And that includes Jacoby Brissett at the same time. He's not a statue. He's not a running quarterback by any means, but he will take off from time to time. I have them at 58 plays in this game, 21 points scored. I have them at a rushing rate of 52%. I actually think that rushing rate's going to be 60%, maybe higher.
Yeah. Especially if it goes their way, it goes the Browns' way for sure. Baker collapses onto himself. You're probably looking at 55% on the ground for sure. So, yeah, I like that look. There's some good unders. The Mitch Trubisky one very much aligns with our numbers too. So I like that look as well. So good logic behind it too. He sucks. So the clock stops, and they got to try it again. So no problem with that. I'm very bullish on the Bengals in this spot too.
The Palmer one too is super low, 28.5. Is that it? I didn't see that drop. Seems really low for a guy that is going to play a bunch on a great offense. So
Yeah, I looked at Palmer's receptions too, which I was considering, but it was starting to juice up. So, yeah, I like that too. He's going to be on the field a lot in a game that could very much go back and forth and have a lot of passing involved. So, all right, last one for me. I like both looks here. I like both the over on the combined yards, and this one popped with nice juice. I like over 2.5 receptions for Tony Pollard. It's minus 105 on BetMGM. This is out there at Caesars at like minus 150. So we're getting a really nice number on MGM here. I also on DraftKings took Pollard over 51.5 combined yards because I think he is going to be involved in this game. And we've talked about this a lot too. The drumbeat of having both their guys on the field is going to be a thing. Tampa Bay has been heavily targeted versus the running back position for 2 straight years. Over 7.5 targets per game to running backs. That is top 5 in the league, both 2020 and 2021. Again, we know we have the same defensive coordinator, same scheme, a lot of things. They're very predictable. There are a lot of teams that when you look at kind of their man versus zone rates or their 1 high safety or 2 high safeties, that they are all kind of in the middle. Tampa Bay is a lot of zone, a lot of 1 high shell. We kind of know what we're getting with this team. And I think prioritizing the running back here is going to make a lot of sense. We've had a lot of Pollard in the slot talk, and Pollard played a lot of slot receiver in Memphis when he came in. So this is not a stretch here for him to work there. And because we're talking about Jalen Tolbert, who's had a bad camp, and Noah Browns and all these other things, it looks like Michael Gallup is probably not making it back for this one. But even if he's in the game, I don't think this is a real problem here. Minus 105 is a really nice number. I think we see a lot of them caught 4 balls in this matchup last year in week 1. Tony Pollard over 2.5 receptions.
I mean, banging Cowboys over is what can go wrong, right, Noonan?
Nothing.
Running back overs, all of them.
All of them.
No, I do like that look though. I think that's solid, and he should be getting involved a lot in the passing game for all the reasons you mentioned. So it's a good look. It's not something I'm personally playing, but I think is probably the right side.
I have a fun one from that game if you want it. 66-1.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
Yeah, well, I have to figure out what the guy's name is again because I keep forgetting.
Semi Fehoko?
No. It's a guy who won USFL MVP. He's returning punts and kicks for them and playing slot, maybe.
Oh boy.
What the hell was his name? Give me a sec here. I wrote it down. No, he's already dropped. Oh yeah. Cavante Turpin is 55-1 first touchdown, but he's also like, where is he? 10-1 anytime touchdown.
Okay.
I only say first touchdown because, if they kick off or there's just a punt to them, he's going to have the ball in his hands. And I do think that he's so fast that they'll try to get tricky with him, like out of a slot, jet sweep, whatever it might be. I think he'll end up with 4 or 5 touches in this game, and he's super fast. So it just takes one missed tackle and he's gone to the house.
Interesting. Yeah, that's why I like the Pollard over too, because I think they're going to have to scheme the ball to him. The Pollard on the yards too. I think they're just going to have to find ways for him to get involved. So they just don't have a lot of talent outside of these guys. And, we can argue the Zeke stuff. He wasn't healthy last year down the stretch, right? So he might be washed, and we'll find out real quick. And then, I'm the donkey that took it over on Zeke in week 1. But I think that these kind of cover each other in a sense. I think both of these game scripts, they both can win, but I think one of them at least works based off of game state. So kind of where we're at.
We bet our first touchdown prop or anytime touchdown prop ever yesterday. Kyron Williams, anytime touchdown at 11-1, gets injured right away. During special teams, gets injured on the first play. I mean, talk about a run bad. Didn't even have a shot. We couldn't even give our long shot a chance to get on the field. And I thought he would have at least played a little bit, but I mean, who knows at this point?
We'll never know. We'll always know.
We'll never know.
We're on the right side. He would have played based off of how the game went, right?
Of course.
All right, got a couple of questions for you in the chat before we take off. Adam wants to know about Joe Mixon, over 69.5 rushing yards for Mixon. That's a pretty nice number, way off of our projections on Mixon, which are at 93 yards. Pat, any leans on Mixon?
I just don't know what to do with the Steelers defense, so it's a pass for me.
Yeah. Kind of thoughts on Joe?
Yeah, again, kind of. I really don't know what we see out of the Bengals offense here either, because they kind of shifted the Eagles a little bit to once Burrow got healthy, a little bit more pass heavy. And I think that would be awesome to see. I just don't know if we see that, especially in this game where they don't really have to. I think that they can get away with running Mixon, 20 times and kind of come out of there with a touchdown victory. But it's kind of a stay away for me.
We have Davis Mills over 210.5 passing yards. Connor, friend of the show, Davis Mills. We went to bang the under on Davis all year last year. We were a little over this at 233. Any thoughts on your boy here in week one?
No, I like the over. I think Mills is going to go over this. I mean, I'm have reversed course, after the initial, under money season on Mills for like 6-7 weeks when he was playing just like the hardest defenses in the league. And the Colts defense should be obviously very, very good. But I think I have some questions about the defensive coordinator now, the more that we dug into it. And I think that, Mills could be, they're probably going to be playing a negative game script here, probably passing a bunch. So I think that the over here is probably a decent look.
Pat, any thoughts on Davis Mills?
I like the over too. I have him around like 240 yards in this game. If I was going to play him with the over, I would actually look into the same game parlay of Davis Mills and Cooks over together.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that game could be feisty. I don't know.
I don't think so at all. I don't know what people are smoking. Or do they legalize something in the States and I wasn't aware of it? Like the Colts are so much
legal
better
here for a little bit.
They're so much better. And the Texans are such a horrible, like it's the team they match up with the war. Like look at both their games last season. They couldn't move the ball on offense with Davis Mills. And the Colts just, here, let's hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. You can't tackle him. Okay, see you next week.
Yeah, they did run down the throat. I'm trying to look at these like wonky week one games because there's always one.
It's the Bears. The Bears are the wonky game.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I know. I don't want it either, but that's what it is.
Yeah. I was just leaning that way as to like a possibility just because it's the in the division stuff. So there's a little bit of familiarity versus, something like that. But yeah, I mean, bad weather in Chicago. You get a West Coast team playing on the knee-high grass of Soldier Field. Anything could happen. So yeah, we hope you're wrong. I think it could be wonky as long as the Niners hold on and take care of that one. So thoughts on Jalen Hurts over 229.5 passing yards from Adam here seems low. Yeah, let's see.
You can't bet that. Like we just said, what are you going to see? If you think that you know the answer to what we're going to see out of the Eagles, just think you're lying to yourself. Like no one knows what we're going to see. Yeah, people have taken some serious positions, but I don't know.
That over could hit by 150 yards or be under by 100. Like the rate
for sure.
I just don't like. That's why I like playing rushing attempt props, passing attempt props. I feel like that stuff is it's more projectable. Like if you have a sense of the game, you're not really worried about the result at that point. Like, I don't know, for especially if the Eagles win big in this game, it's probably because they do a lot on the ground, isn't it?
That's what happened last time they played, and they absolutely boat raced him, and he ran for a ton of yards and barely played in the fourth. So yeah, I mean that could happen again too, right? I know a lot of people want to restore the roar and all those things, but like this team still sucks. The secondary is still really bad. I don't get it.
What are they restoring the roar to? Like where was it previously at?
The roar is not. I don't know that the roar has ever happened, right? Like they've. What are we talking about? Like 1989, 1991, I think it was the last time they won a playoff game, or even in the. Like it's just. I
mean, is that the most fraudulent hashtag saying like then in sports right now? I mean, that's pretty pathetic. What are they like 30 years at this point?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, very hard player to project. I have Hurts at 204 passing yards.
Right.
Yeah. But like I'm not like that's a huge under, and I'm just still staying away. I'm like,
right.
Lord knows.
And we're at 260, which I think is way aggressive. And it's like I don't think either of us or any of us are comfortable there. So yeah, no, thank you. Brian wants to know our thoughts on Gesicki on a season-long standpoint, under 600.5 yards on Gesicki. We took under his receptions. I played that last week in our season-long show for some of the same reasons that Connor pointed out, just not on the field as much as we thought. It's a little light based on our projections, but again, I think our projections are wrong because I think that our projections still have him playing quite a bit. So I would lean there. What are your thoughts, Connor?
No, I agree. I think that also just like a general point about like, we don't make our projections, but we use them as like kind of a baseline and a guideline to help understand and like identify values potentially. But at the end of the day, there's some things that are just like, they're just off, and based off things that we know or think we know. And, I think that oftentimes, our models just don't really factor that in right away. So especially too, after the first couple of weeks, our projections get a lot sharper, when we have a little bit more data to kind of run off of to get those like baselines good.
Yep. All right. Makes sense. All right. Real quick. There are, again, in this Thrive contest, folks, at the top, if you did not listen, Thrive Fantasy, thrivefantasy.com. Promo code prop drop is going to get you 100% instant deposit match up to $250. So again, you can deposit $250, you'll instantly have $500 in your account. They have massive overlay in this tournament. This week 1 tournament with 50,000 to the first place has 1,390 entries, and there are 11,000 seats in this bad boy. So they are not going to fill it. So there is going to be a ton of overlay which will be paid out because it is a guaranteed prize pool tournament. So again, use promo code prop drop, and our friends over at Thrive are also telling us that if you beat Connor and I, again, any of us, you don't have to win. You just got to beat Connor and I. You're going to get entries into their week 2 tournament as well, which again, based off of the numbers, I'm sure they probably back it down a little bit, but there'll probably be some overlay in that as well. So these free tickets worth $25 are going to be pretty interesting. So Connor, again, folks that want to join there, they had to pick 10 out of 20 props. Give me 1 or 2 that you like here that folks can get in on.
Yeah, I mean, some like free squares here. Ezekiel Elliott over under touchdowns 1.5. I mean, just taking the under there. There's I like Aaron Rodgers under 265 passing yards. That's like, I think a good strategy for this stuff is comparing these to like domestic lines that are sharpened a little bit more, by bettors. So this is like in the 250s in most spots. Keenan Allen under 6.5 receptions, you're able to get plus money. I don't love that one because I think that game could explode, but relative to the market, it's valuable. And then they have a Chris Godwin one, 45.5 receiving yards. I mean, I don't know. I guess I got to figure out what their rules are, whether he has to be active or play a snap, or I mean, if he's active or plays, like I don't think that he's going to play that much. So I think the under there is a pretty good look. If somehow that comes back to bite me and he explodes, I'd be pretty surprised. But I think they work him in slowly if he does play this week. So we'll see. That's just something to look for. Those are the ones that stood out to me. I don't know if you've looked into it yet, Noonan, but we will be in the streets. We will be firing off entries, at least 1 to 2.
1 to 2. I'm filling this thing.
Are you maxing it or what?
I mean,
it's 150 max, Noonan.
It's not going to fill.
Yeah, right now, literally, if you enter it, you get paid. It's like they have 1,000 entries and they pay out 2,500. So it's like I don't even know, a free roll at 50K. I mean, basically, like I'll just keep max entering, honestly, up until lock, depending on if they're going to keep paying at least a 50-50. I mean, it's too good a value to pass up. Yeah,
the interesting thing is because there are only 20 to pick from, there is a little bit of game theory around, which side you pick and some of those things to try to get the most points. Some of these things that are really easy, like the Zeke one, for instance, you're skewed massively to the under here, so it's not rewarding you as many points. But yeah, again, like it does feel like a free square. There's a lot of numerous touchdown props. And again, just taking under on the touchdown, like a singular event, which is really hard to predict. To Pat's point, like it is, we want to find the things that are more projectable. Touchdowns are a very hard thing to project. So lots of those. I'm with you on the Rodgers thing. I think Rodgers under 265.5 is probably a pretty good look. That one actually is getting you plus money essentially on the under. So that'd be a look for me there. So again, thrivefantasy.com. Prop drop is the promo code. Beat Connor and I, you get free tickets for week 2. But again, 100% instant first deposit match up to $250 and massive, massive overlay. So any questions on Thrive, hit us up on Twitter, 444 football, anywhere you want to do, or hit us up individually. So good stuff as always, gentlemen. Pat, would you like to tell everyone where they can find your stuff?
Pat Mayo Experience, audio podcast, video show, all up on the Mayo Media Network. Myself, Tyler Tambolini, we're live earlier on Friday going through the entire DraftKings DFS slate, and I'll be back on Saturday with a full injury report, season-long rankings update, and a few props for the weekend as well over on Prize Picks. So please tune into that and go sub to the channel right now.
Love it. Sub to it. Lots of great stuff over there. No matter the sport. Connor, what's going on with you? We have all the hay in the barn for week 1?
No, I'm just going to keep firing on more props. And, Sharp Clark actually just released an awesome article on her site. It's free. It's like a matchup spotlight where he breaks down one game, like super in depth. Very, very thoughtful guy. Does some great work, great analysis. So just published that at 44.com. But, otherwise, I'm just going to keep, firing off props in our Discord. So hop in there and make some money.
Clark's a stud. Good stuff as always.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to say 2 p.m. Eastern on Mayo Media Network on Saturday. Our guy, really, John Kelly, is going to be live breaking down the UFC 279. You may have some questions based on what's going on with this card right now.
Seems like a lot of things going on, and very few people in the space that I would want to help me suss that out than John Kelly himself. So, guy's an absolute stud, and
have you
fight game.
Are you paying attention to what's going on with this in real time?
There's someone that is not making weight. I'm not a big UFC guy, but I know there's someone that's trying to, like, I saw that there was stuff yesterday with Dana White backing away, like canceling the press conference and all that stuff. I have no idea.
Yeah, so Chimaev's in the main event. He's like minus 2,000 over Nate Diaz, and he missed weight by 10 pounds. So Diaz wants out. He only has one fight left on his contract, and legally, he now doesn't have to fight Chimaev, which is the main event of a pay-per-view. He can just walk and get out of his contract too, and get paid.
Wow. So is he going to do that or what? Like, what is going to happen?
That's sort of like the bated breath right now. It seems like there's 2 other fights that are off from people missing weight too.
Yeah, I don't know that you want to get in the ring with a dude who's missing weight by like 10 pounds. I don't know. I would think not, especially if I can get paid for it anyway.
Yeah, especially when you are a 13-1 underdog.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And you can walk and still get paid and get out of your contract. I mean, that's a pretty easy decision on my end, but I'm also not in the ring every weekend or whatever, every 6 months. So,
God, I would be such a terrible MMA fighter. If I can,
I'd schedule a fight. That'd be fun.
I mean,
get you and Daigle in the ring together.
No, I'd take Elliot in the ring. I love such a punchable face. I'd love to get Elliot in the ring. I know he's bigger than I am, but God, that face is just made to be punched. But otherwise,
I'll be clipping this.
Yeah, that wraps us up for this week. So again, check out everything on Mayo Media Network, everything at 444.com, 444.com/plans for a betting sub. We'll have producer Sal back with a prop for you next week. Tell you more about all the great things going on at 444. So for Pat and Connor, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.